Jane and Jeannie, can you hear us? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Are you going to kick us off, Jenny?
Yes, I am. I'm just sharing the document, and if it's okay with you, Chair, we will just go through the changes that I've changed into the document and talk to each of those, and then can just do a quick, well, we can just reference the table of submissions to just check against that we've considered all of the submissions with the changes that have been made.
Yep, that sounds perfect. Ready when you are.
Right, just give me a second. Okay. How do I share screen, Jane? It's been, oh, here we go. It's been a while since somebody else done.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
And then if you don't mind, Jenny, do you want us to just talk to each point as you go through it, or do you want us to wait till the end?
Yes, I think so. It's it should be reasonably straightforward if we just go through all of the individual points.
Okay. So we'll just jump in as we go, or
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll just make sure I confirmed with you at the hearings panel that you are okay for that change.
Sounds good.
I'll get rid of the ribbon, Jane. Anyway, carry on. All right. So the first change was around the submissions that discussed that the reserve management plan could become quickly out of date. Should, in the event that the designation conditions changed or the flight limits were needing to be changed. So a comment up here was put next to where we discussed that generally management plans should be reviewed a minimum of 10 years, but there is also a requirement that they are kept under continual review to remain relevant. That's in the Reserves Act. So I inserted the wording, as you can see there. However, due to the unique characteristics of the reserve and its management, it is recommended that this reserve management plan is reviewed at a minimum of 5-year intervals.
I'm happy with that. We spoke about that, didn't we? And yeah, I'm comfortable with that change.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And so the next change that is made is in response to several of the submissions that sought the film industry was recognised and that was an important user of the Airstrip. So this, the first place it appears under the principal purpose, film industry has been put there as well, and then that pops up a few times throughout the policies and objectives where it references what the purposes are.
Great.
Yep. Happy with that.
So the Glenorchy Community Association, one of their main submission points was around the parcel of land north of Blanket Bay Lodge, which is Recreation Reserve. There's a grazing licence over it by Blanket Bay, or the wider organisation. The community sought this wording and this location in the history. However, I am suggesting that it goes further down in the plan because whilst this parcel is identified in the history, I don't believe that potential future uses or future circumstances should be sitting in the history part.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
where do you
sure.
see that going?
It's quite a bit further down.
I'll just take a look at the headings and then at the beginning and then
Actually, just a slight correction. I think it's actually, yes, so it's in the reserve description up here.
yeah.
And as I've said in the comments, it's not directly relevant to the reserve description because we're describing the Glenorchy Airstrip Reserve. We're not describing the
Yeah.
reserve north of that. So in the history section, where the Glenorchy Community Plan, head of the lake, I've put it here.
3 points.
And amended the wording slightly to that put forward by the Community Association. I've just summarised it a little bit.
Okay, so sorry, just so that I'm clear. So what's in red on the screen at the moment is what was there before, and what you showed us in yellow is what you've summarised it to. Is that correct?
No, the yellow is what the GCA have submitted, that it goes there.
Oh, okay.
This is another place where it could sit. So it is
Okay.
interesting,
Yeah.
which talked about the wider area. And then the, I think it might be easier rather than jumping around if I just continue to move through the plan and then we come back to this.
Okay.
So let's park this one if that's okay.
Yep.
Sure.
So the GCA suggested it goes here and it's being addressed later in the plan. We'll come back to confirm that. This is all just describing the airstrip in the current situation. I have made a couple of very minor grammatical updates where we've picked up a typo, for example. So I've just made a reference to Heli Glenorchy here beside Action Helicopters for clarification, because obviously it's one and the same outfit.
Yep.
And it was noted that I'd referenced 70% of total annual aircraft movements further down in the document. So that's why that 67 has just been updated. Just make sure it's consistent. Film industry appears in the vision.
So I had a point on the vision. So earlier on we had a list of all of the important contributions to farming, emergency response, employment, film industry, conservation. What we've left off is probably one of the main ones, which is local tourism. It is mentioned earlier in 2 point something or other from memory, but then it's not consistent when we list all the other industries. So I'm just wondering whether, if you're going to list all the industries, whether you do include tourism in that section again, and it appears in a few other places as well.
Yeah, we do have a few versions of this statement throughout the plan, whether it's in the purpose or the vision or the objectives. So I don't think you'd be introducing anything new.
No, it's just for consistency mainly, because as I said, it's mentioned. I can't remember where I saw it. It was maybe in the vision or something or other, or maybe the introduction. And it lists again, as I said, all the commercial activities and other community uses. But further through the document, starting with the vision, it leaves out tourism. I'm not sure if that was done on purpose or whether that was just an oversight.
Yeah, I think the vision was workshop, sort of not first and foremost, but you're right. On the very next page, under general objectives 6.1, well, the first general objective is provide for a small aerodrome with grass airstrip for limited recreation and commercial aviation activities that prioritises use for emergency services, farming, conservation and local tourism.
Yeah.
So
Sitting there.
It's also in 1.2 as well, principal purpose.
Yeah. So just for consistency, I guess is what I'm saying though, is should it sit in the vision with all the other things that you're talking about as well? And where else did I see it?
So the vision is different, I guess, in the sense that there was a visioning exercise with the community. Is that what you're saying, Jeannie? And that therefore the wording is a little bit different for that reason?
I think so. I think and acknowledgement, you know, of employment in there, which is directly linked to local tourism. I think that's possibly a reason why it isn't word for word for the objectives and policies. And I guess the vision is, where, you know, what would great look like at the airstrip, versus the objective saying, well, you know, what's the purpose of the airstrip? What's the main objective for managing the airstrip? I mean, I think it can sit in both.
Yep. I think as long as there's consistency, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. So yeah, for instance, 6.1 general objective.
Mentions local tourism.
It's been split out. So, and I guess it's also with a vision, you're trying to capture it all in one sentence versus objectives can be split into several different ones. So, you know, here we have the same sort of statement, but then employment is in 6.3.
Yeah.
A specific one around that. So, I mean, I think that including it in their vision is inherently intended, but I do think that the use of the word local tourism is important as well.
Yeah, it's also in 8.3.1.1, so it's further down in commercial use under that category.
Yeah.
Again, local tourism's been left out. Lists every other use for the airstrip except for local tourism, so you might want to add it into that point as well. 8.3.1.1.
Yeah, look at my hard copy, try not to flick through too much for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Carry on.
Yep.
I'll pass the vision. Sorry, Jane, that leaked around a bit, didn't it? General objectives, inclusion of the film industry, obviously, in 6.1. And then insertion of a new objective we do reference emergency services, but this is just to reiterate the importance of the airstrip in the event of an emergency or natural disaster. So in addition to emergency services, there's also search and rescue and whatnot that's not necessarily happening in the event of an earthquake.
Yep.
Yeah, looks good.
So now we are getting into aviation, and I guess this would be a good time to talk or, you know, address the Glenorchy submission, where there were quite substantive changes sought by what they were submitting on. We haven't made the changes as they were submitting, which was to essentially move reference to the designation and repeating those conditions. and that the reserve management plan anticipates growth beyond those limits. So we have not made those changes, but we have made quite a number of the other changes that they were submitting on, which are typically generally reflected here.
One quick question, just I guess I'm sure you've done this throughout, but using the words airstrip where appropriate and aerodrome where appropriate, or switching them out. Have you done that exercise? Because obviously we've got, for example, 7.2.5 maintain a specific Glenorchy aerodrome webpage versus other language throughout, which is airstrip.
Yeah, we did work on this quite a bit, thinking, so the aerodrome, as it relates to the designation, is the rectangular boundary around the airstrip and the aprons to the side of that basically everything within the fenced area. The airstrip is literally the grass airstrip, and then an aerodrome, as is discussed under the CAA, like Queenstown Airport is an aerodrome, Glenorchy Airport is an aerodrome. Our website is currently set up at the moment under airports, and then you go to Queenstown Airport, Glenorchy Airport, and then Glenorchy Aerodrome, because it is directed towards the aviation audience, if you like.
Jenny, is this the appropriate place to rename? Because we did talk about renaming, didn't we?
Yeah, so correct. The reason why it says aerodrome here is because that is what the web page is called, but we can change it back to airstrip just so we don't have, well, we do also have it here, 7.2.1, it is aerodrome, and 7.2.8, it is airstrip. So it does jump around a little bit. There is a policy further along where I think we made it in to suggest that we could consider changing the name of the reserve to the Aerodrome Reserve.
Yeah. 7.2.8 makes sense because that airstrip is part of the aerodrome, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's the literal physical airstrip.
Yeah.
Maybe just where we're quoting the name of it, for example, the title, as in a web page, we just put it in inverted commas, just so that it's grammatically, it means that it's the name of something rather than the technicality of it. So on 7.2.5, you could just simply put Glenorchy Aerodrome in inverted commas.
Just on that 7.2.8, maintain the grass airstrip in accordance with CAA regulations. There was a point made by Glenorchy Air, I think, that whilst they're operating sort of older technology, more robust aircraft in the future, fuel efficient, low emissions aircraft may require a better quality airstrip. Is there somewhere we can make mention of that?
Yeah, we do discuss airstrip upgrade further down, but no new wording around that an upgraded airstrip would better provide for newer aircraft or larger aircraft which are quieter and, you know, have a lower emissions per passenger limit. So that wording hasn't been in here, but we could put that. But if we carry on, so we can park that and just see if we need it once we get down to the wording about the airstrip.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Jenny.
Jenny, I'm just wondering then, obviously the plan is called the Glenorchy Airstrip Reserve Management Plan.
Yes.
Is this now the appropriate time for us to address whether we change that title?
Yes, so the reserve itself came across to us from Department of Conservation as the Glenorchy Airstrip Reserve. I'm not sure if it was gazetted as that, what the Gazette notice looks like, but it has been gazetted as a local purpose airport reserve. So there's just, there are the three different terminologies used across the three different types of legislation, if you like, or uses. So we've always been grappling with that, with this particular paddock.
My preference.
I think it's your best. Yeah, it's your best preference, really.
Yeah, my preference would be whatever legally the CAA recognises it as. Would make
Which
more
is
sense to me.
aerodrome, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is how it's referenced in the designation.
Yeah.
So we could rename it the Glenorchy Aerodrome Reserve Management Plan.
Are there any consequences to us doing this, or?
Well, so we never named it under our official naming policy because obviously we inherited it from Department of Conservation. Do we need to follow our naming policy if we are tweaking a reserve name? Possibly.
Well, so in terms of, I guess, going back to the hearing and the submitters, there wasn't much contention around the name. Like technically, from a CAA point of view, it's appropriate, and then the reserve has got a name which is kind of appropriate for the reserve. I don't know. What's your advice, given that you've traversed it for a lot longer time? Like, do you think it matters now to change it?
No.
Okay. Like, there's no submissions on the name, was there?
No.
No.
Well, not to retain it, but Glenorchy did submit that. I think one other did as well. So I think to change it, provided we can, we don't need to do anything official with Lynn's on the title or anything like that. And even if we did, I think referencing it as the Glenorchy Aerodrome Reserve and the Reserve Management Plan, I don't believe will have any consequences.
It's a better description of what it is.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I'm okay. Well, I'm in favour of that.
The panel recommends that the name is changed to Glenorchy Aerodrome Reserve.
Yep. Barry, you're
Yep, I'm happy with that.
too? Okay. Happy, I think.
I mean, I'll still call it Glenorchy Airstrip, but it's yeah, I think that it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and ensures consistency.
Yep. And then you'll just check throughout the document that it's used appropriately.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
So just getting back up there, we made a new provision for on the site layout plan showing the approximate location for 2 potential new hangars in response to Heli Glenorchy's submission.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Does that actually show? Sorry, I'm just looking back through it. Does that actually show on a map somewhere? No, it doesn't, does it? But we know from. Sorry.
We do have a site layout plan, but it does need to be updated.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, we can officially produce that and put that on our website.
Yep.
And you know, issue that through the Consultative Governance Committee to help make decisions.
Great.
And regarding fuel storage at the airstrip, we actually adopted Heli Glenorchy's wording.
Yep, that's good.
So that was an amendment from what
Right. And we don't need
switch from limit to enable.
We don't need to go into the details of what that will involve because it'll need permission from QLDC, but it may need consents and all sorts as well, won't it?
Yes,
It'll be controlled under the Dangerous Goods Act too, I think, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah. and in their leases as well, which would require all of that. So, and I think the policies around the leases.
So the basic wording
Require-
you've got there is ample for what we need for this.
Yes, I think so.
I'm happy with that.
Sorry, when Jane types, the plan jumps around for some reason. I'm just going back to where we were. Don't know why it's doing that.
Oh, maybe I've got it open, so maybe it's because I'm looking at it.
Oh, okay.
Would you
moving it
prefer
around.
it if I close it?
Yeah, if you're okay with that.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I just was kind of
This is
skimming
making me
ahead,
look-
but I'll stop because that's interfering, so I'll just close that.
Too many
Making me
hands
look
on the wheel.
scatterbrained. Oh, that's weird.
Is that, have you got does it stop jumping around now?
Yes.
Okay.
You might also have a mind of its own. Okay. Moving on. So this hours of use, exemptions for one-off activities, and the flight limits in particular was a strong theme from the operators at the hearing, and obviously through the written submissions as well. So to address this, the plan has not moved on the overall annual flight limits, and it hasn't moved on you're going over and above what is set by the designation. That would be a fundamental change to the plan and to all of the work done with the community, and would require re-notification and also what council, the direction that council has given through workshops and council meetings. But this new policy has been inserted to indicate that change might be required in the future. But that is a process done in consultation with the community and a number of different processes. So this policy is consider applying to the QLDC regulatory authority. Oh, sorry, this is for the hours of operation. So consider applying to the QLDC regulatory authority for an amendment to the designation conditions and the noise management plan to include one-off curfew exemptions for flights serving the film industry.
So just to make sure I'm clear on this one, practically at the moment, we can't bring effect to that change because of the current designation, right?
Correct. So under the designation conditions, the hours of operation are 8 AM to 8 PM.
Yeah.
Effectively. And that is enshrined in the designation conditions. There is an exemption to that for Department of Conservation flights. So
Yeah.
to respond to those submissions that were seeking, like obviously if you've got a major film happening up in the Dark Valley, for example, and you have a 3-week period where you have, many more aircraft movements than you would usually expect to service the usual industry. The film industry is basically saying, well, can we have a one-off exemption for that? The hours of operation, if it's in the middle of summer, for example, morning civil twilight and evening civil twilight, which is the civil aviation terms, and that is when aircraft are legally allowed to fly. They're not landing at Glenorchy Airstrip or Queenstown Airport, for example, with noise contours. Basically hours a day, which is when they're legally allowed to fly. So I guess the film industry is saying, well, you know, ideally you'd be starting at, so 1st of January, for example, you might want to start at 7 a.m. and fly till 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. because that's when it's still light. DOC has that exemption. It's never been used. But same applies for DOC, you know, obviously to make the most of a day of pest control, they'd be wanting to squeeze as much in into one day. So
I'm just wondering with that comment, and yes, it does address the film industry's submissions, but I do wonder with that 8.2.6 whether we're giving them false hope. You know, because what would be the pathway to change that designation to allow those one-off curfews to occur? Because it probably won't happen within weeks of them wanting to do a film, right?
no, and there is no halfway. Like, you know, it is the regulatory authority that would determine that. So we can't make that decision in this management plan.
So do we need to refer to something along the lines of where the decision-making power sits? Because all it says is consider applying to QLDC regulations, isn't it, or regulatory authority?
Yeah, which is quite a QLDC planning term, isn't it?
Yeah. Does it actually sit with QLDC to make that decision?
Yeah, or commissioner. District plan, it's a district plan decision.
To see what I mean? I'm just make sure that we don't give them false hope in who the decision maker is and how possible it is.
So if this was to occur, the process would be that council as the landowner and the airport operator would decide to pull together an application under the district plan and the RMA to amend those conditions which has set that limit to change to include the film industry. That would be determined against the district plan by a planner and decided upon by an independent commissioner because it's council applying to council. So how do we succinctly say that? I see what you're saying. We need.
Can you not just? Is it not as simple as recognising the designation and the noise management plan as you've kind of done in 8.28? So just that basically it all kind of sits within designation 239 and the noise management as well. So there's no false hope. So it has to meet kind of 3 standards, right? Well, I've oversimplified it, but.
Yeah, and I think that's a challenge to people in the film industry and in the aviation industry, understanding that we have essentially 3 streams of documentation and legislation that governs this airstrip, and we can't make a decision in one without changing the others.
Well, maybe we can say that in a more succinct way, that I think it somehow needs to read that they consider applying
but we have to apply because we are the requiring authority.
Yeah.
And it is our designation, so someone else can't come along and maybe that also needs to be clearer as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Have to say only the airport operator can seek to make that change, but it is not up to us to decide.
Yeah.
So it does need some words to that effect, I think.
Yeah, I think because the way, if you're a layman reading that 8.2.6, you'd probably read it as, oh yeah, there's a way we can do this. Whereas obviously a lot more complicated.
Clarify roles and decision. Are you in principle okay with that policy being in there?
I think, as long as it's clear,
So what that is intending to do is to acknowledge that one-off big filming industry, where appropriate and as agreed by council and the consultative governance committee, is sufficient enough to get an exemption to the hours of operation. It is not to the aircraft movement limits, and that's really important because I think that does not mean that every helicopter operator in the district can then go and do 50 flights on a particular day to service that film industry. They would still be restricted by the flight limits in the designation, which is an annual total. They would also be restricted by the limits that they have in their concession agreements. However, there is a special approval process to also go above and beyond that.
Can I give you a hypothetical scenario then with that?
Yeah,
That
I know what you're saying.
if I was Heli Glenorchy and I had reached my daily limit, and
Yeah.
I then contract Over the Top or Glacier Southern Lakes helicopters to come and fill in the rest for the film sector to do their daily capacity, is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So they could, in theory, contract
And they
other
do that.
operators.
I believe they do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And
They do that.
It's each individual's operator's responsibility to make sure they've got the permissions. Heli Glenorchy is also Heliworks and another operation as well. So Alpine Helicopters is 3 different companies now. So yes, that's what they do, and that could be the way around it. Is that I mean, it wouldn't be perfect, and obviously filming comes in a week beforehand, but there is a pathway. But it is intended that the designation limit is adhered to.
Yeah, I support the intent of that paragraph. I just think it needs tightening up, but as long as it's still supporting the intent that we've just agreed to here, I'm completely comfortable with that.
Yes.
And I think it probably should just make a reference to 8.28 as well within it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this would form part of our ongoing relationship that we have with the operators to ensure that they are fully aware of these processes and the requirements. Okay, so number of submissions, I guess educated us that microlights have come a long way, and necessarily the extremely noisy aircraft that they once were. So I've deleted specific reference to microlights.
Yeah, great.
Just put approximately 70%. And so this is just trying to describe who uses what at the airstrip. So just to clarify a little bit more, Action Helicopters has a base in Glenorchy. It accounts for over 80% of commercial flights and approximately 70% of all flights at the airstrip in 2024. It was 67%. We thought that might be a bit user-friendly if we just go 70.
Can I just ask a question around 8.3.2.8 on incentivizing, what is it? Incentivizing all operators to return unused flights to the bucket. How does that work in terms of, so they pay up front for their allocation, is that right? And then the incentive to return those flights to the bucket is, do they get a refund or do they get to keep their allocation for next year?
Not currently, but that could be introduced into the flight allocation methodology.
Yeah, so it's sort of like an honesty system where they return it to the bucket if they don't use it that year, but it means they get to keep what they've got without losing it, because there's a bit of a use it or lose it policy, isn't there?
Yes, so the use it or lose it intention is that there is obviously a finite number of flights. And this development of this was done alongside the Consultative Governance Committee, which included Glenorchy, to disincentivize operators from banking flight allocation essentially, or protecting it. The pay up front for the year disincentivizes, operators that might only use 50 coming to us and seeking 250 to sort of protect that allocation going forward.
Yeah.
And when we were initially licensing everybody properly for the first time, that was evident that, some operators were, oh yeah, I do 500 when actually they did 4. So that was introduced. Pay up front was to decrease the administrative burden. It's only for those that have licenses. So all of those other operators to get sent an invoice for each individual flight.
So I guess the word incentivize.
That they don't get refunded, but that could change. That isn't enshrined in this management plan. That's the idea behind the flight allocation methodology that can be fluid and remain and be updated outside of this management plan.
Yeah, I know that I think when I was reading that line, I was just thinking, what's the incentive?
Yeah, good point.
So whether you remove that word or there's actually a genuine incentive there somewhere.
I think the word is enable, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. I see what you're saying, Matt. And I think enable.
Encourage?
Yeah, maybe encourage. And there's nothing, the flight allocation methodology is intended that is continually updated in response to both what the operators are seeking, the community's response to that, but also once we get to a situation in 3 or 5 or 10 years' time when we don't have any additional flights in the bucket, these sorts of these things will become more important. They currently aren't because the flights aren't all allocated. They're only 60% or so. So there's plenty of headroom. But when we can't start getting up to those upper limits, we're going to have to be a lot more sophisticated how the flights are allocated.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's examples across dock with their landing sites, how they allocate them now.
Yes. Otherwise, no significant changes to this. There were a couple of submissions that weren't supportive of the bucket allocation, that suggesting it doesn't work in Milford. I don't.
I mean, I guess
I think there's enough flexibility within these policies to move around and to be adjusted and the methodology be changed to respond to what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is it flexible enough, and is our wording flexible enough, for which I think that probably is flexible enough, isn't it, to adapt?
Yeah, there's always sort of this lolly scramble for landings and even if you don't use them, they try and get as much allocation as possible for potential future use. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the better ways of managing it.
And we've had this methodology in place for about 4 years now, and it's working. There'll be aspects that aren't entirely supported by everybody, but it is, it's working.
I guess the question then, if I think of say a commercial heli operator or airplane operator who creates a new product, and they want to have more allocation built in for next year because of this new product, what would be the pathway for them to being able to do that? Because they would have no history of obviously using that allocation.
I think the criteria here, and I mean, it doesn't preclude new operators coming in. Allow for a range of commercial operators.
Okay, so you
manage
just
them in a way that provides for some limited growth.
Okay, so there is an avenue there.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think it's flexible enough.
Yep, I'm happy with that. I don't have any more points.
So, to acknowledge that this is quite a unique management plan, and I anticipate it. Well, it already is. It will be subject to more regular reviews than all of our other management plans. And there's nothing in this plan to stop this from happening, but we have introduced a new policy to respond to those submissions that sort of suggested that we don't reference the designation conditions and that this is more aspirational. This is not a policy being more aspirational, but it is acknowledging that once the 80% threshold of aircraft movement limits and the designation limits are reached, sorry, that should actually say annual. Consider a review of this management plan once you hit that threshold to ensure the plan remains relevant and fit for purpose. So that might be before the 5 years that is referenced earlier at the start of the plan.
So there's a couple of ways you can review it.
Yes. And it also acknowledges, to change the designation conditions, yes, we do need to amend this plan. Changing the designation conditions was very, very difficult, a very long litigious process last time. So there need to be a strong appetite from council to do that. And
that's
but we still have 40 to 50% capacity at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, both those points aren't really mentioned in this, and I don't know whether it is appropriate to say that or not. The fact that it has gone through a fairly rigorous court proceedings to get to where it is, and the second part that you're currently sitting at about 80% of the total movements. I don't know whether
that is all described at the start of the document.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Half of this document is context setting, which is also quite unusual for a management plan.
Mm-hmm.
Just to try and succinctly set the scene. And I guess that's trying to strike a balance between, say, what Glenorchy was submitting, which was to remove all reference to the designation conditions and, condense the plan a lot more, to referencing the district plan and the RMA process, which again we wouldn't usually do in a management plan, to really acknowledge the unique situation and environment that we're managing this airstrip under. I think it strikes quite a good balance in that sense. You could write a lot more, but you could also ignore all of the previous 5 or 6 years that's led us to this point.
I'm comfortable with 8.332. I think it, yeah, it words it perfectly for what was discussed at the hearing and takes on board some of the submitters' views, and we've brought down the 10 years to the 5 years. So I think we've appropriately looked at how we can review it based on growth or time.
Yep, I agree.
And I did also go through and just ensure that we're using the same consistent terminology around flights and annual aircraft movements. So I've made a couple of changes there as well in the plan. Funding and user charges, we spent some time on this in the deliberations. Obviously a range of submitters on the funding and user charges, from it's unaffordable for recreation users through to those that believe it should be user pays. So we've made some changes. Insertion of a new objective to sort of highlight that the Airstrip is a critical emergency response asset and should be maintained for the community in the event of a natural disaster. So it just sort of emphasises that it's being maintained for a rainy day in some senses, not just for the operators. And again, we had some discussion around fair and reasonable landing fees. So just added that wording in, taking into account a wide range of things, market rates, that it's a grass airstrip and has limited facilities, it's a unique location, that it's an airstrip, that the airstrip's strategic community asset for emergency response, and the sensitivity of the receiving environment. So I think that sort of addresses both sides of the coin there. It sort of states why maybe it shouldn't be entirely user pays, but also that it probably does warrant potentially being a little bit more expensive than an airstrip surrounded by dairy farms, for example.
Yep.
Yep.
With that.
And in 9.2.4, stating that we will do a review of the landing fees once the plan is adopted, and again within 5 years. So rather than just saying regularly, we've put some specific direction around that.
Yep.
So happy with that?
Should we just say within the 5-year timeframes of the management plan? Because at the moment it's like it's got the next 5 years covered, but not after that. Or does it? Or do you not think that matters?
I mean, you could say to align with the review of the reserve management plan, and again to align with the review of the management plan.
I think that makes more sense, because then each time the management plan is reviewed, this is then reviewed alongside. Yep. Albeit it doesn't preclude it to only be reviewed at that point, I guess.
Yeah, I've sort of got mixed thoughts on that one, because you know, we've seen from the response with the increase in our fees and charges that if you leave it too long and you've got to correct things because they've fallen back too far, you tend to get a reaction, whereas little and often, you know, it's no different to rent reviews on commercial properties and what have you, just 2 yearly perhaps linked to the CPI is a simple way of doing it.
Yeah, well, 5 years is probably the upper limit for commercial rent reviews anyway. So it's still within that bracket. Where we get into trouble is when it's 13 years or 10 years plus.
Yeah.
But I think for this particular one, I'm okay with 5 years.
I can live with that.
You could say or sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's a major increase where it needs to go up, it can be reviewed earlier than 5 years too, right? If that's clear in that comment.
I don't think it is, but I think, my point was that it should go no longer than the 5-year interim of the management plan. But it can be done as and when needed.
Yeah. And it doesn't
okay.
mean it has to change at that 5 years. It just means it has to be
At
reviewed.
least it's looked at. It doesn't lag too far behind.
Review. I wonder if we say and to ensure alignment with review, or and to align rather than again. Okay, I might
Let you wordsmith that one, eh?
yeah, just a wee bit of a wordsmithing around that one. But so the
Logistically, how does that work for internal process purposes for council? Is this written down with normal reviews and charges, or?
yeah, so we do have our community, you know, our
fees and
finance
charges policy.
policy.
And that's
but,
every 5 years? I can't remember.
I think it depends on the policy, doesn't it? They're not all the same, are they?
Oh, true. So when it comes up for review, it's sort of within that year or whatever it is.
Yeah, so again, because Glenorchy Airstrip's quite unusual, it's an unusual asset for council to maintain. Previously, there were no landing fees when we took on the airstrip from dock, and following the adoption of the first management plan, we engaged an aviation consultant to do a market review and recommendation of fees, and that has not changed since we adopted that fee, which is $18 for a fixed fee for both fixed wing and helicopters. So arguably, you know, 5 years on, it's probably due a review, but it doesn't exactly fit with some of the policies in our community and commercial pricing schedules, which is definitely not my area at all. So, but I do think, yeah, and reviewing them more regularly than what we do.
Well, I guess what it will come down to is the last backstop will be every time this RMP is reviewed, it's really important whoever's reviewing that also has to review the fees, and they can't let that slip. I'm not sure how, again, operationally, how that works.
Well, I do wonder if it is easier to keep them separate from each other, so that if you were to do a review, you know, next year, for example, after this plan's been adopted at the end of this year, and then you did it again in 3 years' time, just prior to reviewing the reserve management plan. So it doesn't, I do think there could be a risk of it making a management plan review more complex and vice versa.
Mm.
Given the range of views on Glenorchy Airstrip.
Can we just not reference the other stuff then at all and just put review landing fees regularly according to the objectives in the point above, which I can't see, which is basically saying the market rate, everything else. So we don't want to line it with CPI necessarily, because I think we're in a unique position. So can we not just actually, well, maybe what you had originally, Jeannie, before I suggest the change was actually better.
It depends on what base we're coming off.
Yeah.
If we're already starting with a low base, CPI review based on CPI could be quite appropriate. We're not, you know, we're setting a fair and reasonable base to start with.
So CPI, I presume, is in the revenue and financing policy. I imagine that's our baseline. I don't know, but I wonder if we review them regularly, start with a review following the adoption of this plan, and ensure a review is done within, you know, in 5 years minimum. Sorry, my brain stopped working a little bit. You know, so that wording we were saying it needs to occur at least every 5 years.
Yeah. And it's got to be simple. It shouldn't have to be a arduous process, in my view.
Yeah, I probably took us off down a rabbit hole there. I think as long as it's reviewed at least every 5 years, then I'm okay with that.
intervals or something. A minimum. Okay, so we're going to say this, but I might need to just tweak that slightly. Okay, so funding and user charges, otherwise okay with those changes?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we might be nearly there. Okay, so development and infrastructure. This is what we were talking about before with regards to the airstrip itself and the surfacing. To address, I guess, those submissions around, that it is really bumpy and it's got a hump in it, and that might be preventing more efficient use of the airstrip. And an operational advice from Queenstown Airport that there is some surfacing improvements to be made that might not address those submitted concerns around the hump in the middle, like that. That's probably quite a significant project. But yeah, just to flesh that out, 10.2.1, ensure the grass airstrip is maintained to CAA regulations and undertake surface improvements in accordance with any recommendations from the aerodrome operator, which is QAC.
I think we need to look at them as the experts and the operators of the aerodrome anyway, for advice.
Yeah, and that's the intent behind that updated wording, is that we will take the advice of Queenstown Airport as a minimum, assuming that that's the budget.
Yep.
One would assume that the operator is in regular contact with the users, so yeah, I think that works.
Yeah, we're all part of the same committee. And public toilets and amenities was also a pretty common theme. So we had previously said allow for public toilets in a waiting area, but just added some more wording around that to say, well, we allow for that facility to be constructed, and also just to make it very clear, by a commercial operator, licensed to operate at the airstrip, and require that access is made available to other operators if appropriate. So basically saying QLDC is not building toilets and an amenity facility, but should one main operator, for example, Glenorchy, build a hangar, that it has those facilities and that it is made available for all users.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
What does if appropriate mean?
Well, I think we wanted to just have a caveat in there.
So they don't have to, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, well, you know, if one of the other operators was abusing it, or I don't know, like we still ultimately have control. We could remove the words if appropriate.
Oh,
I think
it might be appropriate. I'm just trying to figure out what it means and how it'll be interpreted. Yeah,
and I guess, you know, it's not intended that they are publicly advertised public toilets for tourists driving between Glenorchy and Queenstown. So,
I think it's not neither here nor there really to me.
Should we delete if appropriate, because who decides if it's appropriate? So yeah.
I think it's better to have it because it doesn't stop anything, but it just means that that there's also all manner of crystal ball gazing that we can't anticipate here, but it just means that there is that caveat if it's not appropriate for some reason.
Basically just gives, which it's likely going to be Glenorchy, it gives them the ability to restrict it.
Yes. Yeah.
If appropriate.
If it's mandatory that they've got to allow other operators to use that without any appropriate arrangements, then
yeah, I think you should keep it.
Or is it as appropriate versus if appropriate? Anyway, probably don't want to wordsmith this one. Just put it back. It'll be fine.
telling my daughter to call her father, not me. Okay. I think that would all come out in the wash anyway with the lease and the license and all
Yeah,
those
you're right.
things.
Yes, it will.
Oh, so here's my renaming policy.
Oh.
I had it in and I deleted it and I put it back in. Consider renaming the reserve to the Glenorchy Aerodrome Reserve to ensure consistency with aviation terminology and the designation.
Take out consider and you'll be right, isn't it? Rename.
Or we could just say rename.
Rename.
I just think, yeah, that's defined, and yeah, we've agreed.
And
All
that,
right.
and following on from that, we could probably just call this management plan the Glenorchy Aerodrome.
Yep.
You love renaming things, Matt. You
I do,
rename
don't As long as it's 10 times longer than it used to be, I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay. Rename, and that way we can do it, but we can also just triple check that there's no, 3-year-long official bureaucratic process that we need to follow.
Is this sort of a ask for forgiveness?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we might be there actually.
Yeah, we go.
Yeah.
Changes.
Carbon was the only last part, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Excellent.
A little bit longer. Okay, so Jane, there might be 1 or 2 slight word changes.
Yeah.
But nothing fundamental.
I think we had one thing still from the top that we were
Yeah,
we were
had
going
come
to
back
pass
to.
and come back to, which was maybe about the community associations piece.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes, so community association submission was to include this here at the reserve description stage, and then in the history talk about the work stream and state that it is the preferred location in the event that the township has been relocated and rebuilt, and that flight paths should not go over this area in that event. I didn't include that part because I think it's entirely likely in the event that this piece of work needs to happen, that the management plan will be reviewed.
Yeah, I'd say I would.
And I didn't want to predetermine something that may or may not ever happen. And if it did ever happen, then yeah, I think a review of the management plan would be extremely likely.
Yeah.
And the noise management plan and the aviation aeronautical plate, they all say avoid flying over the Glenorchy township and residential areas. It's not location specific, it does talk about the township. So if the township moved, all of those things would need to be updated as well.
Okay.
The writing you've got in red, was that taken from somewhere, ORC wording or anything, or was that your wording?
That was from the
Community association.
Community Association submission.
Oh yeah.
But
Okay.
it's been reworded, so I can read out the submission.
No, that was in yellow up above, wasn't it?
So you're happy with that being in the history section? Because the work stream was historical.
Yes, I mean,
yeah. Okay.
I'm not. I think it could sit somewhere else as well.
I think it's fine there, but I think the point that you made earlier, which is that we recognise the land, is a kind of future thing. And the only other thing is that grammatically it should be the community has, but I don't know if you're quoting it, just grammatically is wrong all the way through. But so the bit that you had in yellow, sorry, I'm just a bit confused. Is that staying where you've now got it? Is that the plan?
No, that is where the community association suggested.
Yes.
Okay. Go.
Yep.
That's a pretty succinct description of the reserve, giving us a picture of what it is, going into potential future management, not quite appropriate there. And then, you know, equally, it's not history, but the history provides the much broader context.
Yeah, I mean, whilst it's not history, that work stream led that piece of work, which then identified it. So it could almost be sitting directly under the paragraph in red that you've inserted because it aligns with that. Oh, you've already got that in there. Sorry.
Same thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
It is there.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So that makes more sense to me. Yeah.
So we'll just delete the highlighted piece completely and leave that red bit in. So basically it.
Yeah, and in my view, it addresses the GCA submission. It just doesn't go as far to say that flight paths won't go over that township in the future.
Yeah, that's probably outside the scope at this stage.
Yeah. But this will be, this plan will be subject to review. Hopefully we don't get an Alpine fault rupture in 5 or 50 years, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
That is everything. I'm not sure, I think if you've been updated or not, but we weren't able to get it on an agenda prior to the election, obviously, and it's now going at the end of November.
Yep. Doesn't go to full council, obviously.
It is going straight. It's going straight to full council.
Oh, it is.
Expedite that, because we don't know if the structure of the councils with the new new council,
with the new committees.
You know, Community Civic Services Committee might not exist, for example.
Yeah.
So and to also ensure that we get it adopted before the end of the year. Most importantly, to inform the commercial licenses which get reviewed in December.
Yeah. So that line TBC October 2025 Community Services Committee recommends adopting plan. Does that disappear?
Well, we'll actually change that to.
You got full council adopts a plan underneath that.
Hearings committee. So we'll go hearings held. Hearing held. Hearings panel. Agrees final form plan. We put in as today's date.
So although your previous resolution did say that you were happy to adopt subject to receiving and agreeing the final amendments, which has happened at this, would you like to do an updated resolution?
Yeah, the resolution is probably more important than this. This is whether or not this gets included doesn't really matter. This is just setting, you know, for the reader the dates and when things happen, but it could be deleted entirely from the management plan, really.
Do you have, Jane, the resolution in front of you in terms of the wording that we agreed to?
Yeah. So the other one was note the contents of the report, receive all the submissions, and you recommended to Community and Services Committee the final form of the draft reserve management plan to be adopted with changes resulting from the consultation process, subject to the hearing panel receiving and agreeing the final amendments to the reserve management plan.
Yeah, so we should just change that. And
yeah, I think just some changes to that part 3 probably would be.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm
Can you
not,
hear that, Jane?
sorry?
Can you share your screen?
No, I'm not in the meeting
Oh.
actually. Do you want me to email it to you?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because at the hearing, when we were doing the deliberations, we were still on the October agenda. Is there an October meeting?
Yeah.
And then we got bumped. So we just need to ensure this is right.
So yeah, I've just emailed it to you.
And the other substantive change is we've changed the name, which probably needs inserting somewhere.
But we're going to be recommending it to, well,
Full council.
this is now going to full council. Jane,
Yeah, it will be going, yeah.
do we say recommend to full council?
Would you mind showing your screen, Jeannie?
Oh,
Yeah, so I have emailed it to her. It's just, yeah, I'm not in the meeting.
no, I did hear it, but it's disappeared. Yeah, I'll do it again.
Thank you.
Do you want to take it from that email and put it in a plain Word document and enlarge it, because it's probably quite.
Can you guys read that? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we could change it to recommend to full council that the Glenorchy, are we calling it aerodrome from this point or not yet?
Yes, I think we
Sure.
are.
And is it the final form of the remove draft
Yeah.
to be adopted with changes resulting from the consultation process? But,
And then take out the subject to hearing panel receiving.
hang on, what's the resolution for though?
Um,
Because the resolution will go in I'll have a resolution in the report which says full council please adopt.
yeah, but because the situation has changed since the hearing of the submissions happened in August, and it has now transpired that it won't be finalised in this term of council. I think it would be useful to have something, a resolution on the table recommending the final form as determined at this meeting.
Okay, so the final form goes to full council with these changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you need to say with these changes? It's just the final form.
Because we've agreed
It's
to the
just-
final form.
Yeah, so it's just recommend to full council the final form of the Glenorchy Aerodrome Reserve Management Plan 2025 be adopted. Isn't it? As simple as that, isn't it?
Be adopted with changes resulting from the consultation process. Probably need that bit too.
Yeah, I always get a bit confused why we have this resolution, because
Yeah, I think
previously we used to just have one in the hearings report, and
Yeah.
then we would have an adoption report, not a resolution at the end of the deliberations. But I can see what you're doing, like to kind of track what we've been doing.
So recommend to full council that the final form of the Glenorchy Aerodrome Reserve Management Plan 2025 be adopted as amended. Does that work?
What it has amended resulting from following
Resulting.
deliberations,
Following.
following final deliberations.
Yeah, following final deliberations.
Full stop.
Oh, stop.
I hear what you're saying, Jeannie. I mean, it could be redundant, but I think given that we're going to have a change of councillors and structures, it's probably good to just capture that
Yeah,
the panel has refined the resolution,
yeah.
and
And it's now
it's going to full council.
Yeah.
But it might well be redundant, but yeah, it's covered. It's covered if it's not for any reason.
I can email you my update. More haste is speed.
Well, I think just well done for anybody viewing this.
At least when they're trying to figure out what we decided on, they can look back
To
on it.
be continued.
Wow, I hope there's not too many changes in council, otherwise we'll have to try and describe.
Yeah, the whole thing
Airstrip
again.
101 in like 5 minutes to new people.
And you just pass them the recording.
Yeah. Okay, I recommend full council at the time for.
Do you want to share that with the panel?
Anthony did. I think not, I don't know, sorry, it doesn't change when I.
Yeah. Yep, there we go.
That looks good to me.
Yeah.
Great.
Easy.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Before we do
Thank you.
that, we need a mover and a seconder and a motion carried.
I'm happy to move that.
I'll second it.
Right. Motion to carry. Motion accepted. Is it?
Yeah. In fact, I think you were the same ones who did it at the hearing.
Yes, they were. Didn't even give me a chance.
Oh, sorry, Matt. You can do it if you want.
It's all good. It's already
Excellent.
done.
Thank you
panel.
so much. Councillor.
Thanks,
Jen.
you. Thanks for all your
Thank you,
work on it.
Jenny.
Thanks,
Look,
guys.
we're streamlining it, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
Thank you.
maybe
Bye-bye.
we'll see it in November.
See ya.
Thanks all.
Hopefully.
Radio, so hearing concluded at 3:57.
Yes, agreed with that. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, bye.
Bye.